Hello, everybody. It's Mike. I'm back. I'm hoovering you back into recovery. All right, so what is the title of today? BPD, NPD, why Codependents, partners of Cluster B. Specifically, in this case, we're talking about borderlines and people with NPD. Why codependents may be the most narcissistic of all. What is it that makes people who do not have personality disorders insist on forcing themselves to be in obviously abusive relationships? Why do neurologically normal people give away their energy? I can't remember what the phrase was. I heard somebody, I think in one of my comments, I think it was a borderline, write about classifying, normal people, but really it emphasized the neurology. Normal or average or something like that, which indicates that borderlines and narcissists, people with cluster B, there's something broken neurologically. They're not the same. It's really important to understand that. So why do neurologically normal people give away their energy, their time, and their sanity to relationships that they know can never work? I am going to endeavor to answer that question. So before I go any further, in case you're new to this channel is designed for non-cluster Bs, neurologically normal, I guess. I don't know what the word is, but that sounds close to it. This channel is for neurologically normal people who have been or are currently in a romantic relationship with a cluster B, specifically a borderline or an NPD. And to let you know who I am not a therapist. I am simply somebody who survived a very toxic relationship with an undiagnosed, untreated borderline woman. She was an amazing woman. She is an amazing woman. Amazing, wonderful, beautiful, conscious, intelligent, passionate, artistic, spiritual, very caring, all of those things. All of those things are true. But unfortunately, she had a neurological personality disorder that she was not consciously aware of and not working on, and unfortunately she was incapable of having a functioning toxic-free relationship. I survived that, and I healed completely from that relationship. And so my main goal is to help other people that, like me, how they can heal from the horrific damage that is caused by being in contact with the personality disorder. And I make a distinction between the person and their disorder. It's really not the person that does the damage, it's their disorder. And their disorder is damaging them as well. So we could debate on who is damaged more. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, because it's damaging to everybody. So if you are a borderline and you're coming onto this channel, bear in mind, I'm not making this channel for you. And if you are somebody who has good relationships with people, you get along with people, you don't consider yourself toxic, then I'm not talking about you. Don't send me nasty messages telling me that I'm stigmatizing you. I don't even know you exist. I don't know anything about you. I can't possibly stigmatize you because I don't know you. If you're a partner of a borderline, don't send me nasty messages telling me that I don't understand and that they can be helped and that you can help them. If that's the case and you have a great relationship with your borderline, then I'm not talking about you either. I'm talking to those people who were not able to make the relationship work and who were damaged. And if you are a borderline, the best way to get something out of this channel, because more and more borderlines are finding my channel, and for some reason I don't completely understand, they seem to be getting something from it. But if you want to get something from my channel, the best way to do that is to listen, not whether or not I'm accurately describing you or your experience, but to try and understand what it's like for us, because that's one of the biggest disconnects. Borderlines really don't understand what their disorder does to us. It's horrifically damaging to us, and it's not only damaging like the damage happens. The damage gets in there and it doesn't go away. It's very close to a contagious disease. It gets in there and it gets in our brains and it gets in our soul. And even when we're out of the relationship, even when we leave the borderline or they leave us, the healing, the healing just doesn't come. It doesn't come with time. And so I'm here. My main job is to help people heal. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. But it takes work. You have to know what the problem is and what to do. And if you don't, in my experience, if you don't, there is a very real possibility that the damage and toxicity that you've been around will stay with you and will flourish inside of you, like a virus or a bacteria. So I talk about doing the three things. Those three things are, really, do you want to be happy? I want to ask you that question. Do you want to be happy? Are you happy? If the answer is no, then really the only thing that matters is what can you do to be happy? All of this talk about what borderline personality disorder is and what codependents do and partners and all that stuff is great. But if you're spending all this time on my channel and you're wanting to hear me talk about the intricacies of BPD and codependence, and you're not doing any of the work, then this channel is a waste of all of our time. Maybe it's not a waste of time because I've at least introduced you to what you need to do. So you need to do those three things, and I'll write them down here again as I do every time. If you want to heal from the relationship completely so that you never have any pain, you never think back with anger or sadness or rumination or anything like that. If you want to be able to maybe even forget about the painful relationship, then in my experience you have to do three things. Really, you have to do four. The first one is you have to go completely no contact. The second one is you have to get into therapy. The third one is you have to work all 12 steps of coda.org with a sponsor, and then sponsor somebody else. And then the fourth one, you have to do some kind of daily meditation. If you don't do those things, in my experience, if you don't do those things and do them with everything that you have, there's a very good chance you may not ever recover from the damage that you've experienced. So that's all I can do. The only thing I care about is helping you have the tools to be happy. So all this talk that we're going to do today and that we do in these videos is only here designed to do one thing. It's designed to make you aware that there is a problem that is beyond your conscious control and that this problem cannot be solved by you alone. And bear in mind that I will know. By the way you ask questions or leave comments, I will know if you've done the four things. And I'm going to point that out because I care about you enough that I don't care if you stay on my channel. I don't care if you subscribe to this channel. I don't care if you like me. Somebody out there is going to get the message and somebody out there will heal. And that's it. That's the only thing I care about. So, having said that, let's go ahead and get on with the video. So, why do codependents? Why they might be the most narcissistic of all. So what I'm here to tell you is that you're well aware of the narcissism of the borderline. The borderline, by the way, actually now, from what I understand, the latest understanding in the psychological world is that borderlines are in fact narcissists. It is a form of narcissism. And if you don't completely understand that, and you don't understand what borderlines are, then you are going to be projecting onto them your narcissism. So you think that you're the victim. You think that you were just walking along one day and you stepped in a bear trap. You will, as people do, you will go to great lengths convincing me, of course it won't work, but you will try to convince me that it's really not your fault, that they came to you, that they seduced you, and that you tried everything in your power to be truly loving to them. In fact, you will tell me for hours, if I listen, you will tell me how you are the most unconditionally loving person in the world, and that all you do is you just care about them. You just want to help them. And you're just trying to make sure that they're loved because they've been through so much. And what you don't realize is that you are perhaps even more narcissistic than the borderline. Your denial may be even thicker than the borderline. It's important to understand that there is a difference between you if you are neurologically normal. In other words, if you don't have a personality disorder. There is a difference between you and the cluster B. The difference is that the cluster B has a neurological disorder, has a brain disorder, has a psychological disorder that actually prevents them from experiencing emotions the same way that you do, experiencing time, reality, the same way that you do. They are not rational when they're splitting, in the case of the borderline. They just are completely different from you. And if you don't understand in the ways in which they are different, then what you will do, and everybody, if you're with a borderline for any length of time, you are doing this. You are projecting onto them rational ways of thinking, feeling, responding, reacting that they don't have. And if you truly were this empathic person, an empath means to feel from within. It means that you can climb into somebody else and feel what they feel. If you're truly an empathic person, then you're going to know, oh, this person's not getting it. This person doesn't feel what I think they feel. This person doesn't feel and react the same way that I do. If that's not happening, if you are projecting onto them, even if it's rational, even if what you are projecting onto them is how you would feel, how you would respond, or how everybody else on the planet, as far as you're concerned, would feel and respond, if you are projecting that onto them and that's inaccurate, then you are not empathic. You are projecting your reality or your fantasy onto them. And if you've been with a borderline and you stayed with a borderline, then you have done that. You are doing that. which means that you might as well have a personality disorder. Now, you don't. Your brain and your neurology and your psychology is more plastic. It's more malleable. So it means that if you do those 4 things that I lay out, you can actually heal and go back and let your brain and your nervous system and your psyche go back to a more normal place. But if you don't do those things, in my opinion, then you will stay in this delusion. And even though you don't have a personality disorder, even though there's nothing permanently, different about you, you might as well have one, because you're just as insane, if not more so. Because the truth is, if you've been with a borderline, they've told you. They've told you in their behavior, and oftentimes they've told you to your face. And the borderlines are nodding. They've told you to their face that I don't do that. They'll say things like, I don't remember things. I don't feel that way. I don't respond that way. That doesn't work for me. I don't know how to do that. They will tell you. But because you, in your narcissism, you want their love so badly, you will refuse to acknowledge what they are telling you, which is abusive. It's abusive. And you're using their weakness. You're trying to capitalize on their need. You're trying to capitalize on their infantile desperation for love. And you know it. You know you're doing it. You know that the reason why you can't forget them when they love bomb you is because that's what they're expressing. When they look at you and they say, you're the best, I love you, you're the only one, only you have given me what I've needed. When they say that to you, they are telling you, like an infant or a kitten or a puppy, they are saying, I'm completely dependent upon your love and your attention, and I can't live without you. And you hold on to that. And in your codependent narcissism, you say, now I've got them. Now they're my captives, and I will force them to love me. Now, you don't think that consciously. Consciously, your eyes fill with tears and your lip quivers, and you hear your cape flapping in the wind as the super empath that you are, and you believe now you have worth, which is codependence. The definition of codependence is you gain your worth from what you do, not from who you are. So when the borderline is love bombing you, which is they are idealizing you because they live in this constant pendulum, where the pendulum swings in one direction and they're very vulnerable and open and pure in their need, which you interpret as love. And that because it's not normal, you know that. Normal people don't love that intensely that quickly. Maybe they don't even love that intensely ever. And so you know something's different about this person. That's because the pendulum is swinging up. But it's going to hit a maximum and then it's going to start swinging back down again. And when it swings back down, you will go from being the one that they need the most to be the one that they must destroy the most. They must get away from you and destroy you. You will become the most destructive, hurtful being in their world. So even that, if you are trying to nail down what it is that makes them love you and try and keep them there, not only is that denial of reality, but it's also, it's abusive. Because you're not loving them for who they are. You're not able to see them for who they really are. Because if you saw them for who they really were, you would know that they don't really love you unconditionally the way that you think. And you'll know that they can't maintain that. It's unrealistic. The love bombing is unrealistic. And no human can maintain that level of intense love. No human can maintain that. So they seem superhuman in the beginning because they have this seemingly perfect, pure, unbelievable love, but it is unrealistic and nobody can maintain that. So reality will bring it back into balance at some point. And your need to keep them there is narcissistic and abusive, and it shows that you don't really love them. So I'm going to read a comment. Bear in mind, if you come onto my channel and you leave a comment, the whole world can see it. So I'm not outing you in front of the world. And if you've been on the channel for a while and you've had interactions with me, so you already know. So just bear in mind that the best ways to interact with me are to ask me an honest question. An honest question means that you think I have the answer to something. It's not, trying to get me to co-sign something, or it's not being passive aggressive. And the other thing that I want from you is an honest feeling. So if there's something I say that pisses you off or angers you or frightens you, you can write honest feeling. What you just said really makes me angry. I will never judge you for your feelings. If you start attacking me, or if you want to try and convince me of your way of thinking, there's a good chance I'm going to psychoanalyze you. So if you don't want that, don't leave comments. Okay? And don't even leave questions, because I'll still do the same with your question. Because if you're asking a question that I believe is worth responding to, it means that I believe that there are other people who are having the same experience, or I myself had the very same experience. And my style is, I'm going to show you how ridiculous your thinking is for one purpose, not to shame you, so that you'll wake up and go get help. So that you'll wake up and realize that you are lost in your codependent delusion, and that it is a very dangerous place to be. And you'll get out of the shark tank. The sharks will eat you if you stay in there long enough. All right, so this one, this was just left today. It was a response to my video, Loving a Borderline. You do not understand their motives, and et cetera, et cetera. And I recommend everybody watch that one. And somewhere in that video, I repeated something that I always say, and I will say it again now. If you are with a borderline, it may take a week, it may take a month, it may take a year, it may take 30 years. But at some point, if you are with a borderline who does not get some help, and even that is iffy. If you are with a borderline, at some point there will be the final discard. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And that is an undeniable conclusion that must be reached if you truly understand what the disorder of borderline personality disorder is. If you don't truly understand what the disorder of personality disorder is, then you won't be able to accept that. And if you're having a hard time accepting that, it tells me everything I need to know, which is that you are, in fact, a normal human being who is in the hamster wheel. You're still there. Bear in mind, you could be out of the relationship for 10 or 20 years. In other words, you haven't physically seen or spoken to them for a long time, but that doesn't mean that you're not still in the relationship. My goal is to actually get you out of the relationship. But just because you haven't seen them, just because you've gone no contact, in no way means that you're out of the relationship. You're still there mentally, emotionally. And here's a good example of one. So this person says, well, let me explain about the discard first, the final discard. So the final discard, this is how it works. So The borderline themselves, on a conscious level, want everything that they say they want. They mean it. And they want the same thing that you want. What connects you and the borderline is your intense need for love, approval, attention, nurturing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very human. I'm not judging that. But it's very intense. In fact, your need for love, attention, approval, nurturing is in fact greater than the average person. And you call that being an empath, which means you have the personal experience of having a ton of feelings. And you think that means you're an empath. It doesn't. It means that you are having a personal experience which contains a lot of intense feelings. That doesn't make it unnarcissistic. Just because you see people's pain, you feel people's pain, doesn't mean you're not a narcissist. Now, somebody who has NPD, those people are characterized as people who don't have empathy. In other words, they don't feel for others. I think that's partially misunderstood, but that's their experience. Their experience is they don't have any feelings about you, they don't care. So because you are filled with these feelings for other people, you think that means that you are the opposite of narcissistic. But narcissism means that you are focused on yourself. The myth of Narcissus. He can't leave his own reflection because he's so beautiful. He doesn't want to be involved with anything or anybody else. He just wants to be with his own reflection. It means he's only wrapped up in his own experience of himself. Just because you have deep, intense, loving feelings, you feel so strongly the need to take care of and fix somebody else, that doesn't mean you're not narcissistic. Why? Because those feelings are all projection. The borderline, when they split on you, when they say horrible things about you, and they tell you what a horrible person you are, they are projecting onto you the feelings they have about themselves. That's why it's narcissistic. They don't have the ability to stop and go, hey, maybe this isn't accurate. This is another human being with their own existence, and perhaps they have a different experience than what I'm feeling right now. These are just my feelings. They are actually a human being that exists. They're not doing that. They are projecting onto you their self-hatred, their shame, their fear, their feelings of unworthiness, and you experience that. And you've been there because you know what they're saying you did is absolutely, totally not what just happened. I looked at my watch because I was wanting to know what time the delivery man is going to show up with your box of chocolate and roses so that I could tell you how much I love you. And there, as the delivery man's knocking on the door, they will be yelling and screaming at you about you looked at your watch because you can't wait to get away from them. You've been lying to me this whole time. I know you're cheating with somebody. Give me your phone. That's it. I'm having nothing to do with you. I'm going to go slash your tires. You know that their experience isn't real. It's got nothing to do with objective reality. But what you don't know is that your feelings of love and the need to take care of them is your projection of what you want somebody to do for you. And that feeling is so painful. The feeling that you are all alone, that nobody loves you, you desperately need love, you desperately need loving, and who doesn't? Don't get me wrong. I get massages all the time. Every time I go surfing, I get a massage. Sometimes I get a massage when I haven't gone surfing. Why? Because I want the feeling of some beautiful young woman with her hands on my body, and it's a way that I get that nurturing. I'll get it however I need to get it. As long as it's, constructive. So I'm not trying to shame you for those feelings. But what you don't understand is that if you don't allow yourself to have those feelings, you're alone, you're lonely, you want love, you want nurturing. If you can't tolerate those feelings, probably because you were shamed out of them as a little kid, then you won't be able to shove those feelings down. You're going to say, no, I'm my own person and I don't need anybody. And you're going to shove all those feelings down. And then what's going to happen is, as you're going along, stoically through life with your armor on, some broken, cute little borderline kitten is going to come meowing your way. And they're going to rub up against you and they're going to purr. And they're going to make you feel like, oh my God, this little tiny, oh, look at that. I'll love you, little baby kitten. I'll take care of you. And you will expect, like a good kitten, that they will bond with you and love you forever. And when they don't, you can't accept that. So what you tell yourself is, it's my fault. I need to love them better because my worth comes from being the perfect lover. If I can love them perfectly, they'll finally see it. They'll finally let me love them. Then they'll turn around and love me. But what you really want is you want to find somebody who will love you perfectly. How many times have you said, I just want somebody to love me for who I am? How many times have you said that? How many times have you felt that? Because that only happens when you're an infant. Sorry to tell you, nobody will ever love you for who you are if you're an adult. Won't happen. If you're an infant, your mother, if she's neurologically normal and healthy, she will love you unconditionally. She has been programmed through evolution to do that. And that's why mothers want so badly to be around. Now, I can't stand the thought of infants. It's the most frightening thing. I mean, I care about them, but I'm not about to become a dad anytime. I mean, I'm already almost 60, so I'm sure as hell not going to do it. But they're, people, human beings, but especially mothers. When they have an infant, something takes over their neurology and they have this superhuman ability to love the child unconditionally. And the only thing the child has to do is simply exist. And that's enough. You're perfect. You're the most amazing, perfect being in the universe. And what other people might look at as a weakness or a flaw, the mother says, no, that's what makes them a special, perfect, amazing piece of art. They're more unique than anything in the world. And when the child gets that, then they learn how to self-identify. They learn then to tolerate their own feelings, and they learn to individuate, which means that they can have their own feelings and know that their feelings are okay and that their feelings might not be objectively real. They might even know that their feelings might not have anything to do with what somebody else is doing. And that's why normal, neurologically healthy people in relationships, when they get their feelings hurt, what they do is they say, I need to talk to you. When you said thus and such, it really hurt my feelings. And I'm trying to understand that. And you say, I wasn't doing that at all. I was looking at my watch to see when I was going to give you this beautiful gift. In fact, here it is. And then the person goes, it wasn't my feeling at all. You really do love me. Or they say, you did this and this and it hurt my feelings. And you say, you're right. I was really wrapped up in myself and I wasn't experiencing you. And the person says, that's okay. I understand. I've done that too. This is what happens when the child is actually loved for who they are. Then what ends up happening when you become an adult is you seek to find somebody whose life you can interact with. And you both together are these independent beings that choose to spend life with each other. You don't need them to love you for who you are. You seek to love them for who they are. You say, look at this interesting individual. This is a mystery. I want to find out what they're all about. Because I know they're different from me. And I'm okay with just being me, but I'm really having fun getting to know this person. That's not what happens with you in the borderline, is it? What's the first thing you and your borderline said to each other? Oh my God, you're just like me. Oh my God, I've known you my whole life. Oh my God, you're my soulmate. You finish my sentences. You feel the same thing that I do. In other words, you're not individuated. In other words, you don't want them to be different. You want them to know you for who you are. And that doesn't happen in adult life. It takes years. It takes years and years and years before you finally get to see somebody's true character. But that's not what happened when you met your borderline. You fell in love and everything was perfect. So, I'm trying to get to the final discard. So the point is here, the final discard. What will happen is if you're with a borderline, the borderline consciously wants to connect with you and wants to love you and will pour their love onto you because they unconsciously see you as the perfect parent. Consciously, they see you as their soulmate, and they finally found their soulmate. And they're going to pour their heart out to you, and they're going to love you in ways, in this perfect, amazing way. And then what will happen is that their personality disorder, which is lying to them, their personality disorder is lying to them that you are perfect. It's setting them up. Their personality disorder is setting them up to then cruelly turn the wheel on them. You have to understand they are a victim of their own personality disorder. You're a victim of their personality disorder also, but they are the first victim. So their disorder tells them that their disorder takes you. Like you walk in the room and you say, hi, my name's so-and-so, gosh, I really like you, whatever. Their personality disorder takes that in and then takes it into the artist's studio. And they take that snapshot of you and they put it through whatever program, computer program. They turn you into somebody who was kind of average looking into the most beautiful person, whatever it is that they want. Like for me, my borderline ex, I'm about, on a good day, if I'm wearing shoes, I'm 5'9", right? I'm not very tall. I'm a little less than the average height, I suppose. I'm in good shape. I'm 200 pounds, but I could stand to lose 20 pounds if I wanted to be a swimsuit model. I'm 50, back then I was 55 or 56 or whatever it was when I met her. So I wasn't a young guy. But in her mind, she saw me as 6'5", and she saw me as this giant of a human. In fact, she used to call me a silly giant, and I'm not. Because that's what she wanted. She wanted some big, huge giant of a person that would protect her. And the things about me that weren't all that great, like I could stand to lose 20 pounds, no, she liked that. She liked the feeling. Everything about me that might not have been perfect was turned into not just good, but the most perfect thing that's ever existed. And I was the most perfect thing that ever existed in her mind. That was her not seeing me for who I am. That was her projecting onto me a perfect godlike being that didn't exist. So you're being devalued from the moment that they're idealizing. It's devaluation. Now they're a victim of it because they're not consciously lying to themselves and saying, this person isn't perfect, so I'm going to turn them into something perfect. No, their disorder does that for them. It's a program that's going on in their brain and it does that for them. So they turn you into something unrealistic. There's no way they can maintain that unrealistic projection of you. You don't have to do anything. At some point, that projection will start to pixelate and fall apart, and then they're going to see you either not as what they imagined, or then what happens is their disorder then, as the pendulum starts to swing in the other direction, makes you out to be far, far worse than you could ever be. They turn you into the worst, horrible monster that's ever existed. They will, their disorder will take things that you do and say and turn them into the most horrifically frightening thing that's ever happened, that somebody else could exhibit. In my case, my borderline ex, when first time she split on me, we had been out to dinner. We had to go to 3 different restaurants because there was something wrong with every restaurant, and she was flipping out. And I didn't know what was happening. I hadn't seen this in her before. This perfect, super conscious, communicative, tolerant, loving person was now flipping out over the tiniest things. And I didn't have any idea what the hell was going on. We finally got to the 3rd restaurant. I think it was the 3rd one. And then she flipped out about something and said that we had to leave. We had already ordered the food. The food was on its way. She said, we have to leave, we have to go back, and there was a split second in my mind of thinking to myself, what the fuck? But I didn't show that to her. I was consciously trying to listen to her. And in a split second, it was literally a split second, she said, stop looking at me like that. She got up and got out of the restaurant and started storming down the street. And I had to get up, apologize to the people around me, and I had to pay for the stuff we weren't going to eat. And then I had to go down and chase her down. And later on, I asked her, what was going on? Why did you do that? She said, well, because you had that look on your face. And I said, what look? And she started explaining. I said, I promise you that was not at all what was going on with me. I said, what did you physically see happen? And she said, I said, whatever the hell she said, I said thus and such. And then there was at least 10 to 30 seconds of you staring at me like this with your eyes, and your eyes got big and your face got red and you got so angry. And I said, really? I can promise you that's not what happened. It was a split second, and I had a thought. You must have seen it in my eyes, because I was doing my best to make sure that I didn't make you feel uncomfortable. But I had a thought, and there was probably a feeling in there. So their borderline mental disorder is fucking with their reality. And it will go from you are the best, which you're not, to you are the worst, which you're not. And there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it. And when you no longer, after they do that split, they're going to regather themselves, they're going to regroup, and they're going to come back, and they're going to hoover you back in. We won't talk about why they hoover, but they will want to get back with you. And then the process starts all over again. But over time, the amount of time between them, their disorder creating you into this God that doesn't exist, and their disorder then creating you into this demon that doesn't exist, the time between each of the pendulum swings becomes shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. The amount of time that they spend devaluing you becomes greater than the amount of time that they idealize you. And in order to keep this working, your job in all of this, their disorder has set up the scenario that your job is to become more and more vulnerable, because that's the only way that they can begin to trust you. You must, each time that they hoover you back in, all the talking, she apologizes or she gaslights you, however it works, it doesn't matter. It means nothing. What they say means nothing. What you'll find out is that during that time, they are actively seeking to pull out more vulnerability from you, which is them, in their mind, needing to feel loved. They need to trust you. They'll tell you this all the time. I need to be able to trust you. And to do that, you have to pull out more and more of your vulnerability to them. And they feed off of that. They idealize you. Then, of course, the pendulum swings. They devalue you. They hoover you back in. And it could take 30 years. But at some point, you will run out of vulnerability. There will be nothing left in you to give to them, to their disorder. Their disorder feeds off of your vulnerability. There won't be anything left for you to give them. When that happens, they won't be able. They're trying, trust me. They want to switch the negative view of you. They're working very hard to constantly reset that. That's what happens when they're hoovering. You become the most evil person in the world. They do whatever they do. A bunch of other things happen, and then they realize that they actually did get some connection with you. They want you back. Then your job is to go, here, let me dig deeper inside of me. Here it is. And at some point, their disorder has nothing left to feed on. And then they must destroy you. They must destroy you completely. Of course, they do that every time they split, but there's something left in you. Have you ever noticed that when they discard you, a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, you start to be able to breathe again. You start to be able to think about yourself, and you start to go, okay, I think I'm going to be okay. Bong, ding, ling, ling, they're right there. Right there. The moment that you start to feel like you have some strength within yourself, the phone rings. Doesn't it? They knock on the door. You run into them on the street. I was just thinking about you, she says. And then she says, you know what? I realize now that you really did love me. And you go, yes, that's right. I really did. Okay, now you finally see it. It's because you now have something left to give back. You now have some vulnerability for her to appreciate and enjoy. And something for her disorder to feed off of. Of course, I'm using the word her, but it could be a him. So at some point, the final discard will come. There's no way to avoid it. If you understand the mental illness of borderline personality disorder, you will understand that it is absolutely impossible to have a functioning, committed relationship with a borderline that is untreated. It's not possible. If you are thinking differently than me, and if you want to argue with me about it, here's what that tells me. It tells me that you're wrapped up in your narcissism. And that's very normal. If you've been with a borderline, the only thing that will keep you in it is your narcissism. Your narcissism of projecting onto them what you want for yourself, which is, I want to prove my love to you. Somebody said earlier, I've looked back, and I'm looking back in hindsight, I'm realizing that every time that she did all these things, she was really testing me to see if I really loved her. And I made a video about it, the last one. And I said, no, that's not at all what was happening. You were the last thing in her mind. She wasn't doing any of those things to try and prove your love. That's your projection. You want somebody to prove to you that they really love you. You're constantly thinking, does the borderline love me? You want somebody to come along and do that for you. And so you can't tolerate that, because who can? You can't tolerate that awareness, so you project it onto somebody else. You project it onto somebody who keeps giving you the excuse to keep wondering, do they still love me? I'm going to see if they really love me. I'm going to get them to love me. The borderline, when they split on you, they're not thinking to themselves, I want to make sure that this person really loves me. Don't get me wrong, they can be manipulative like that. But that's not the main reason why they split. They don't do that to see if you really love them. They're not thinking about that. Once the moment you leave the room, they've forgotten you exist because they have a mental disorder. They're not like you. The moment she walks out of the room, instead of forgetting about her, you become more obsessed with her. The moment you leave the room, she forgets about you. And she starts looking for the next person that's going to make her feel better. She loses all empathy for you. Her empathy is only transitory. It only lasts for as long as you stimulate her. The moment you don't do that, which means you leave the room, she loses all empathy for you. It vanishes like a mist. It's gone. So when she's splitting on you, it's not because she's trying to get you to love her. It's because you don't exist anymore. So it's the opposite. In order for that fantasy that person has, when they're doing this, they're really testing to see if I love them. The fantasy is that he thinks that he still exists in her mind the moment that she leaves. That when she's with that other man, having sex with that other man, he thinks she's thinking about me. Even when she's doing that, she's thinking about me. And that's your narcissism. You don't even exist. You're just not that important. So let's take a look at some more narcissism here. This person says, first he says question, which is not a question. A question is you're asking me something that you don't know. But this isn't a question. This is, he's going to give me his opinion at the moment, and he wants me to co-sign it. So he says, Mike, I don't agree about the final discard you talk about. I think BPDs will always hoover and come back if they think they have a chance at manipulating you again. Just like a narcissist will pick who they hang out with. And he makes this example that doesn't really, anyway. He says, I believe, he goes on to say, I believe BPD is the same. If they think they have a chance, they will hoover. Final discard is more something like they know they don't stand a chance because the last time they discarded you, they knew it was a point of no return. You are projecting onto them a rationality they don't possess. You are projecting onto them the ability to link moments together. They don't have that ability. You are projecting onto them the ability to hold you in their mind when you're out of the room. None of those things happen. Why do you feel that way? Number one, it's understandable because you feel that way. You function that way because you don't have a personality disorder. Other people that you have successful relationships with work that way, so it's just understandable. You would just assume that the borderline does that. So your questions are really about if somebody were rational and healthy and they did these things, why would they do them? Well, they're doing it to test my love. Well, they're doing it because they think they still have a chance. No, that's what those people would do. That's what you would do if you were to do that. If a borderline does it, it's because they have a personality disorder and they don't function the same way as you. And you're just not that important. Your narcissism says, I'm so important that they're going to do this really extremely destructive thing just to prove to me how important I am. Oh, it's because you love me. That's why you cheated on me. You were thinking about me the whole time you were having sex with him. You were just hoping. None of that's at all true. That's your narcissism. So he finally says, final discard is more something like they know they don't stand a chance because the last time they discarded you, they knew it was a point of no return. What do you think? Again, final discard, it sounds so pathetic. Now in your narcissism, you've become superior to them because now they're so pathetic that they go, he'll never take me back, so I'm just going to discard them. I really want him, but he'll never take me back. It's not what they're thinking. It's not at all what's going through their head. When they discard you, it's not because they think he won't. He would take me back, but I know he won't, so I'm going to discard him. What's going on in their head is that you are the worst thing that's ever walked on the face of this earth, and they need to get away from you. You are the most dangerous, destructive, evil being. You are no longer that person they thought they knew. In fact, that person, they've forgotten about that. They won't, in the moment that they're discarding you, they can't remember any of the good things about you. You don't exist. They don't see you. Have you ever gone back like I did after the discard? And like I said, I just need to get some closure. And sat there with her and said, do you realize that when the night before you said this, that I'm the best person in the world and we made all these plans, and then the next day you told me that you couldn't ever see me again because I was the most dangerous person in the world. I said, can you at least understand how confusing that is for me? Can you at least understand that? Her response to that was this blank stare. I could tell she didn't see me. She did not know who I was. I could tell by looking in her eyes that she did not remember me at all. I saw with my own eyes the personality disorder. So if you're thinking that, my friend, it means that you are projecting something onto the borderline that doesn't exist out of your narcissism, your need to be loved. And where does this come from? It comes from when you were a kid, an infant or a child. You had parents that didn't see you for who you were. They didn't love you just because you existed. And because of that, you have been carrying around within you this deep, empty pain, this deep, empty pain, this deep, empty need to be loved. And so you chase after a borderline. You're out of the relationship with the borderline. You're not with them anymore. But you still think about them. You still think about them so much that you need to come on to this channel and argue with me that they don't really want to finally discard you. They're still wanting you back. What you want me to do when you say, what do you think, is you want me to co-sign for you that, you know what, she still loves you. She just can't bring herself to, be that vulnerable. And there's some aspects of truth to that, but you want me to keep the hope alive in you. You want me to keep the fantasy alive in you. Because what you really want is you want your parents, your mom and or your dad, to finally go, oh, my little boy, I finally see that you have value just because you exist. Come here, let me love you unconditionally. But you are seeking to get it from somebody else who, like your parents, refuse to give you that ultimate acceptance. And so even in the face of harsh reality that has told you over and over and over again that the borderline cannot love you unconditionally, does not see you for who you are, even in the light of all of that, you cannot accept the reality. So you continue with this fantasy of they just don't know that I still love them, that they really are doing it because of me, that I really do exist, I really am important. So I don't know if I expressed what I wanted to express, but that's what's going on with the borderline. And that's what's going on with you. You are filled, if you have been with a borderline and you lasted through multiple discards, it means that you refused to see reality for what it was. You refused to hear the borderlines, either their unconscious truth from their behavior or from their mouth when they said to you, I don't function that way. I don't feel that way about you. I don't think like that. I can't do that. You blocked it out and you said, no, They just don't understand how much I love them. And when I love them perfectly, they'll finally heal and come around, which again is your unconscious desire to finally get your parents' love and approval. This is codependence. All right. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. And I'm really only interested in your questions, like I said, but I'll look at anything else. And let me also be clear. I'm going to say this, and I'll continue to say it. It was true for me. So I don't know, and I've never seen it work any other way. If you are still on this channel and you still need to talk about this, it means that there's still some healing to be done. I don't judge you for that. But in my experience, the only way to heal is to do those 4 things. You go no contact. You get therapy. You work the 12 steps. I don't care which 12-step group. CODA is the easiest one. CODA.org. Work the 12 steps of CODA with a sponsor. That means with another person who guides you through them. And then you teach somebody else to work those 12 steps. Until you've done all of that, you haven't done CODA. Don't come back to me when I say, have you done the 3 things? And you say, yeah, I've done the 3 things. And then if I ask, have you worked all 12 steps with a sponsor and then sponsored somebody else? The answer is probably going to be no, which means you haven't done the second thing. The third thing is daily meditation. If you do those 4 things, no contact, therapy, 12 steps, and meditation, if you do those things every day to the best of your ability, eventually you will gain the ability to completely heal from that relationship. You will eventually gain true 20/20 vision on what was really going on with them and what was going on with you. And you will forget. You won't even need to remember it. You won't have any pain. You won't have any resentment. You won't have any rumination. You won't have any obsession. You won't have any fantasies. You won't have any of those things. You'll see it exactly for what it was. If you're still ruminating, if you're still in pain, if you're still angry, it means you're not healed yet. It means you're still there. It means you're still giving your energy away. Those are the only way that I know out of it. And I'm going to be able to tell by what you say whether or not you've done it. Okay? I'm going to be able to tell. So I know that he hasn't, because I asked him, he says, what do you think? And I told him what I thought. And then I asked him, I said, I don't think you're doing the 3 things, to which he responds. First he tells me he's not waiting consciously, he's et cetera, et cetera. He says, I have done the 3 things and was very lucky to find a good social worker who helped me out a lot with spiritual practice. But I'm quite certain he hasn't worked all 12 steps of CODA and then sponsored somebody else. I'm quite certain of that. So again, if you're thinking these things, if the things that I say, the harshest things that I say bother you and you need to argue with me about it, I understand, but it means that you're not done yet. And it's okay. It may take you years. It may take you years before you are completely healed. I was able to do it quickly, but I've been doing the 12 steps for almost 40 years. So it was very easy for me. I knew exactly what to do. And I was able to, I've got those other tracks in my brain already laid down. I was able to shift my thinking out of codependence there, but I needed help. This is the other thing. If you're watching my channel and that's the only thing you're doing, that's really not going to do a whole hell of a lot. I'm glad you're on my channel, but the only reason that I'm doing this is so that I can hopefully convince you to go get help. That's really, I want you to not need to watch my channel anymore. You're welcome to watch it for as long as you want. As long as people need it, I'll keep putting it up there. But the whole point is to get you off of the channel and working with your sponsor and talking with other people and talking with your therapist and having other people in your life who've gone through the same thing so you don't feel alone. Okay? All right, I don't know what I said, but let's see. What else do we got here? What else? Tanisha Lulu, this is important because we all experience this as well. I didn't ever think borderlines as having a literal mental handicap in the brain until recently. It's almost disturbing to realize this. Yes, now you go, oh my God, I've been having this trying to have this normal functioning relationship with somebody who's not home. It's like, there's nobody on the other end of the cell phone line. You're dialing the number, but it's not getting through. And they're dialing you back on their cell phone, and there's no real communication going on. You don't understand them, and they don't understand you. All right, some other people identifying with me. Tanisha Lulu question, Mike, why might it be that the children of borderline mothers will either come out with BPD themselves or codependent? Why don't they all become borderline? I don't know. That's a good question for a psychiatrist or a psychologist. My guess is that borderline personality disorder also, if I understand it, comes with a genetic predisposition where the brain, won't connect on certain levels. There's some things missing in the brain, or it connects differently. Or you might have gotten enough attention, enough nurturing that you didn't break as badly. But codependents, borderlines are codependent. Narcissists are codependent. Codependent just means that you get your sense of worth from transactional love, which means what you do, not who you are. And so borderlines are codependent, and narcissists are codependent, and you're codependent. The real question is, did you snap and become a borderline or a narcissist? And again, a borderline is just a failed narcissist. They tried to become narcissists when they were infants, and they couldn't pull it off. So they bounce back and forth. That's why they're constantly bouncing back and forth. All right, so that's not a question either. Yeah, so somebody says here, Mike, thanks, Mike, 3 out of the 4 things. I'm going to join CODA now. It's interesting that that's the one thing that people won't do. They'll get a therapist, they'll meditate, they'll go no contact, but the one thing that is the most freely available and the most plentiful and costs nothing, they won't do that one. And I know why. It's unconscious resistance. You have to understand that we prefer the abuse. We've been programmed to prefer the abuse. That need, the hamster wheel, the need to get mommy and daddy to love us, that need is a survival mechanism. It's very difficult to do something that goes against that. And when you go to CODA, you are actively going directly against your programming, which says, no, I can do this myself. No, I'm not going to expose myself. No, I am going to, again, like I've said, the borderlines and narcissists are very clear. They make it abundantly clear, if you don't have a personal agenda, if you don't want anything from them, in other words, if you're truly an empath who only cares about people unconditionally, which of course you don't, because if you did, you would go, oh, that person is incapable and doesn't want what I have. But because you have an agenda, in fact, you have a need, you feel if you don't get them to love you, that you'll die. You literally need that, because as an infant, if an infant doesn't get the parents to love them, the infant will literally die. So this feeling that you have, I had this experience recently where there was somebody that wanted a level of connection with me, and I declined that. And then I saw this person, and they were by themselves walking around alone, and I felt this intense need to go and I'll make it all okay for them. First, I projected onto them that they were lonely and in pain, which may or may not have been the truth, I don't know. And then I had this feeling that it was my responsibility. It's my fault that they're that way. I have to go make them better. And I immediately started to hate them. I felt such resentment towards them while I was feeling this overwhelming desire to go and then, yes, let's get together, and then, knowing that it would destroy my life. But because I've been doing this long enough, I was able to go, wow, there's no real love in that. It's all coming from my feeling responsible for them. And then underneath that is because that's what I want somebody to do for me. That's my little, infant or toddler that wasn't getting enough attention, that wants somebody to just focus on me and give me attention and fix me. And I'm projecting that onto them. Wow, then you realize, wow, it's really not my job. That's their life to walk through. It's not my job to throw my life away just to make them happy. So that comes with years and years and years of self-work. This is the kind of stuff you're going to get from Coda. And this is why everybody wants to do everything but Coda, because you're going to have to face those things within you, that survival mechanism. That survival mechanism is going to tell you what many people tell me. Yeah, no, I went onto the Coda site and I read the literature on there, and I've already done that. I've already, that's pretty much how I function anyway. Which is a way of saying I'm way too scared to actually talk to other people and make myself vulnerable to other people and actually follow somebody else's direction. I'm far too frightened to do that because it threatens my defense mechanism here. So I'm just going to look at it and intellectually decide that I've already done that, and then I'm going to come back and tell Mike, yeah, I already did that. How do I know? Because I've done it. I'm no different than you guys. All right, so Ian Rice, bear in mind that another thing that happens is pretty much, I'm going to say 99% of everything that you say about the borderline, even if you're describing their behavior accurately, your description of their motives is going to be wrong. And it's going to be wrong because it is, again, based on your need to see them as rational. And the reason why you need to see them as rational is because if they're rational, it means that there's hope. It means that there's hope that they'll love you. Even if you're not with them and you know you'll never see them again, your need to see their behavior as rational is really coming from your unconscious need to have hope that your parents really can finally love you unconditionally, which of course they're not going to do. If they haven't done it yet, they're not going to do it. And here it is. This is why I say it's best to ask a question and not drop a comment, because I'm going to see right through it. You say, I'd say dating them is similar to a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much time and affection you give, they will always paint themselves the victim. You were right up until you then started to judge their motives. It is true, dating them is exactly like putting water into a bucket with a hole in it. This comes from borderlines. Borderlines have told me, yes, it's true. No matter how much love you pour into us, it evaporates immediately. We love it, we want it, but the moment you give it to us, it's gone. And so it's never enough. It's true. You can never do enough. So that part is right. You've got the physical reality of it right, which is no matter how much time and affection you give, it falls through the bottom of the hole in the bucket. But where you're wrong is your judgment on them. Because now you're going into a judgment, which is they will always paint themselves at the victim and claim you don't love them. You're giving them a motive, which is to paint themselves the victim. In other words, in that is the assumption they could choose to stop doing that. that they could choose to stop painting themselves the victim, and they could choose to stop claiming that you don't love them. And you say, and claim you don't love them. There's a judgment in there, because that's, falsely claim. So you're seeing them the way you would see yourself or somebody who doesn't have a mental illness. Because somebody who doesn't have a mental illness, if they did that, then that would be the reason why. Because they want attention, they are painting themselves as a victim, they're claiming you don't love them so they can continue with the manipulation. The borderline isn't doing it for that reason. The borderline's experience, because they have a mental disorder that doesn't connect neurologically the same way yours does, when you give them love and attention, it literally for them does disappear. And they can't figure out why they don't feel loved. They're not rational. You're loving them, but they can't feel it. The only way that they can rationalize it is they have to come to the conclusion, wrongly, that you don't love them. They're not doing it. They're not choosing to do it. They can't help it. So for borderlines, this is where therapy comes in. Because borderlines are going to have to come to the understanding, what their feelings are, why their feelings aren't rational, why their feelings aren't, actually reflected in objective reality. They're going to have to understand that, and then they're going to have to learn how to take actions that are completely contrary to their feelings. In other words, they're going to have to understand that they're never going to feel loved, no matter how much love you give them. And they're going to have to understand that that's their problem and not our problem. And then they're going to have to learn that when somebody gives them love, they're going to have to look at it objectively, accept the fact that they can't feel it. And instead of getting mad at us for the fact that they can't feel it, they're going to have to accept it and then say to us, thank you for that gift. I really appreciate it. And I love you too. And then they're going to have to tolerate their desire to split because you just poured all this love into them. They didn't feel it, which means that they don't believe you, which means that you don't love them, which means you're out to destroy them. They're going to have to live with all those feelings and start acting completely differently. And then we will stay. Borderlines, if that's what you want us to do, we'll stay. We don't care. We care. We want you to feel good, but if you treat us badly, that's what we don't like. If you can acknowledge that, while the person is handing you a gift and telling you that they love you, and you have this feeling that it's not getting there, that they've got this ugly look in their eye, they must be doing something, they're lying to me, they're going to hurt me because I can't feel their love. I feel worse now than I did before they gave me the gift. You're going to have to realize that's not our problem. That's unfortunately your problem. And if you want us in your life, you're going to have to learn how to do the opposite of what your impulses are telling you to do. And you're going to have to say, thank you. Let me give you a kiss. I appreciate that. You're so good to me. And then you go and call your therapist or whatever, and you talk about it. And you learn how to act appropriately. You learn how to act lovingly. And the more that you act lovingly towards us, the more we will act lovingly towards you, and we will stay with you. So you have to understand that, non-borderlines, you have to understand what you're up against. That's why it'll never happen. And it's totally normal for you to want to judge them. But it's ultimately not helpful for you. And that's why you got to do those 4 things. You do all those 4 things, you can look back in time and you'll be able to go, yeah, I was with somebody that unfortunately didn't have the ability to love me. And I have nothing but love and compassion for them. But I've let go of that. I'm not angry with them. I don't need them. I realize now that all those periods of love really were projection on both of our part. They were projecting and I was projecting. I realize that now looking back on it. Right? And then you can be free. And again, those of you who are neurologically normal, you can have real love. So the other question is, why are you chasing after people that don't love you when there's literally millions of people in the world that have the ability to love you? All right. So what else? Anything else? Ian Rice is just explaining what codependence is. Thank you. Tanisha Lulu, I truly wonder why there are so many borderlines and narcissists in our society. You're projecting your victim mentality onto the world right now. I wonder why there are so many. I literally thought my experiences with my family members were just my own and everyone else had it good. Yeah. There really aren't that many. There are a lot. Actually, I could get into some politics and talk about how the reason why the politics are the way they are in the United States is because 40% of the United States on a collective unconscious level is operating from narcissism. But I won't do that. Okay, what else? Here we go. We're going to Axel Funk. I've just read the first few words in your sentence. I already know you haven't done the 4 things. I already know you haven't put any work into it. Just 3 words into it, I already know that you're full of rage and resentment. If you're out in the water and a shark bites you, do you spend time talking about how evil sharks are? No, you go, yeah, no, I got bit by a shark. You don't spend any time feeling angry at the shark. That's just what sharks do. You don't spend time being angry about the mosquitoes that bite you. That's what mosquitoes do. So if there's any rage in you talking about a borderline, then you don't understand that they have a mental illness. It's irrational for you to be angry at somebody because they have a disability. It's not their fault they have a disability. It's your fault for continuing to volunteer for the abuse. All right, now I'll read your comment. When they steal your money and rack up your credit card, smears you to friends and family, is it to try to get a reaction? Is it to destroy me? To regain control of you as a source of their supply? No. No. They steal your money because the moment you walk out of the room, you stop existing. The moment that you're not there to give them attention and love or whatever else it is that they need, the moment you walk out of the room, you cease to exist. They have a need to go escape their pain. They have a need to find something or someone else who can give them what they want right now in this moment. Because they have a narcissistic personality disorder, they don't have any empathy for you in that moment. They don't have any feelings. They don't feel guilty or bad. That's not there. It's broken. All they see is your money and your credit card. And through that, they can get their impulses met. There are times afterwards they go, oh my God, why did I do that? They may not even remember that they did it. This, again, people don't realize how severe this personality disorder is. They won't remember what they did the day before. And when you come to them and say, why have you, charged all my credit cards? There's as good a chance as not that they don't remember doing it. But in order to make themselves feel sane, they'll come up with a reason. Or they do remember why they did it, and they realize now, in hindsight, that it was completely irrational and wrong of them. So in order to feel sane, they justify it by making it your fault. This is called gaslighting. It's because they have a mental illness. It has nothing to do with you're wanting yourself to be important here. Is it to try and get a reaction? The only reason that somebody wants to get a reaction out of you is if they remember you when you're not there, and they want you they want to feel like they're getting something from you. That's what a normal person, there are evil, bad, disturbed, normal people out there. That's what a normal person would do. Are they doing it, is it to try to destroy me? Perhaps, but again, it's because what they're really trying to do is they're trying to get away from what they perceive to be a threat, which is you, and they're trying to find that person who's going to fix them. Because this is the insane part of it. There's two people in there. So they're really actually almost like people with multiple personality disorders. They're very similar. They dissociate. You guys should understand what dissociation means. It means they don't identify with themselves. If they do something and then they switch and do something else, what they just did, they won't identify. They might remember that some person who looked like me did that, but that wasn't me. But in order to feel sane, they'll turn around and make up some reason in their head. They'll blame you, they'll blame themselves, they'll blame the weather. This is dissociation. There's multiple personalities in there, literally. There's the psychopath and there's the needy borderline. The needy borderline will do whatever they need in the moment, whether you're there or not, steal your credit card, bake you cookies, whatever it is, the moment you leave, right? They'll do whatever they need to do to feel good in the moment without any awareness of you. And then there's the psychopath, and the psychopath is there to defend them. So when they feel vulnerable, they split, and the other personality comes forward. That's when they say really horrible things. That's when they do really horrible things. That's when they act like literally, you say to yourself, I don't know who this person is. And you can see in their eyes, their eyes might even be a different color. But their eyes will look at you and you will see that there's nobody home. You can see that the person that's talking to you does not recognize you. It really is another person. You think there's one person in there doing it to you. They're not doing it to you. They half the time don't even know you exist. Or if they do, you're like a movie character. You're not real. It's really important to understand that. You're not real to them. So no, they're not doing it for any of those reasons. And it once again shows you don't understand who you're with. It's not your fault, but now you don't have any excuse. If you come onto my channel and you want to talk to me about how to make it work, don't waste your time. Now that you know you're not truly in a relationship with another human as you know them to be, then you don't have any reason to, number one, complain, and number two, keep going after something that won't ever give you what you want. To regain control of you as a source of their supply. How would that work? Because you give the example of they steal your money, rack up your credit, smear you to friends and family. To regain control of you as a source of their supply? How does sabotaging their connection with you control you? Have you thought this through? That doesn't make any sense. That is a purely sadistic, psychopathic thing, what you just described. The only reason they would be doing that is to try and distance themselves from you so that they can avoid what they believe is going to destroy them, which is you, because they're in the psychopath. The psychopath doesn't trust you. What we call the borderline, which is they're going from infant to psychopath. They're always one or the other. The infant trusts you implicitly. The infant sees you as God, trusts you implicitly. The psychopath doesn't trust anything or anybody. And they go between the two. So the psychopath, the person that stole your money, racked up your credit card, smeared you to friends and family, is the psychopath who is trying to get away from you. Okay, now you understand? You're not with who you think you're with. All right. Let's see what else. Ricario, if you have a question, when you write the word question, I will see it more clearly. So write in all caps the word question at the beginning of your question so I can see it. You say, what do you say? Where is it? You finally say, now how do I know she was borderline or codependent with BPD traits? What difference does it make? So if I tell you she's just codependent with BPD traits, how does that help you? Because now maybe you can go make it work? Why do you need to know? All you need to know is, did they split on you? Did they hurt you? Are you in pain? Was it destructive? That's all you need to know. A destructive, toxic person is a destructive, toxic person. So just get the fuck out. Over time, maybe you'll figure it out. But right now, I don't think that's the most important thing. And I don't think it matters. I'm just reading the comments here. Tanisha Lulu, the evil part is they make you think that you're the crazy one. They don't make you think anything. I can't make you think anything. I mean, I can't make people accept that they're codependent. So how can somebody make you think anything? I just gave the example of there was somebody that wanted a deeper connection that I wanted, and I declined that. I saw that person, and I immediately had these really strong feelings that it was my job, that I was the only person, and I felt this pain, and I felt bad for them, and I simultaneously felt resentful and felt forced, like it was my job to, and I had to realize that I'm not powerful enough to be the only being in the universe to give her what she needs. This is her issue, not mine. And so that was my projection. But if I hadn't had all of that experience, I can tell you I would have, gotten out of the car and walked down the street and said, here's my number, let's get together, even though I didn't want to do it. And I would do it under the guise of, at least she'll love me. And I would start thinking about how to get her to love me. And, it's very difficult to go against those impulses. But you're the one doing it. Nobody makes you think anything. Nobody has that kind of power. Just because that's what they want to do, just because they gaslight you, just so that they can make things make sense for themselves, doesn't mean they're making you do anything. And it's not evil. An evil person is somebody who knows what they're doing and has the ability to do the right thing, but is choosing to do something simply to hurt you and for no other reason. When they make you think that you're the crazy one, they're not doing it because they have the ability to do something else. So again, there's you could say, the crazy part is that I make myself think that I'm the crazy one. And why do you do that? You do that because you think that's going to keep the relationship going. You did that. Nobody did that for you. Let's see. Now, that's the worst part of it all, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's your feeling. I understand that. So what you're saying is that the most painful part for you is that you don't have the self-empowerment to be able to tell yourself, hey, I know that I didn't do that. That's the most painful part. And the most painful part is your need to get them to love you to such a degree that you will throw away your own empowerment and your own understanding of reality just in the pathetic hope that they might finally love you this time. You're right, that's the worst part. You've not only destroyed yourself, but then you didn't even get what you invested in. You gambled by throwing yourself away and choosing to allow yourself to believe it was your fault in the hopes that they will finally accept you and love you. The worst part is that they don't. So not only do you not get the love, but now you don't even get the ability to be yourself. That's what you're saying. It has nothing to do with them. This is you. Bear in mind, you chose to be with this person. There's literally billions of other people on the planet you could be with. You've chosen that one. Why? Because you want to relive your childhood neglect and abuse and rejection. You want to finally get it right. You finally want to get mommy and daddy to love you. You don't realize that that's what you're projecting on this borderline, but that's what you're doing. What else? Let's see. Again, you guys, if you want to ask a question, so two most important things in life and in your recovery is pay attention and put effort. I'm telling this person again for the second time. If you want to ask a question, it helps me to see your question if you write question in all caps on the front. What it shows is, again, the narcissism of being codependent. You're so wrapped up in your feelings you didn't hear what I said, but you have to get a question out. And I have to look through it to finally find your question. Now, how do I know my mom is BPD or codependent? I'm gaslit. I don't know how you figure that out. Get your ass to a therapist. And again, why do you need to figure it out? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If your mom is the one that's doing it, it doesn't matter if she's borderline or codependent, because codependent is, borderlines are codependent. So you already know she's codependent. The question is whether she's borderline. But it doesn't matter. Is she abusive to you or not? Just get your ass to a therapist. Stop trying to figure her out. I get why you're doing it, but focus on you. That's where the healing is focusing on you, not on her. All right, that's it for me. All right, I'm done for today. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for coming on. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys when I see you.